myself Dr. Smriti. I will be teaching the topic of World Trade Organization, its establishment, objectives, functions and structure in today's class. To start with, we will be looking into the concept of World Trade Organization. It's an international organization that is designed to supervise and liberalize the international trade, which also facilitates the trade in goods, services and other intellectual properties by helping the participating countries to provide a framework in such a way that these agreements can be negotiated in terms of reducing your trade barriers, quotas, tariffs and any other negotiations and agreements which are signed by the representatives of various governments. This particular organization was established on Jan 1st, 1995 under the Marrakech Agreement replacing GATT. Its headquarters is located in Geneva. We will look at the objectives of World Trade Organization. The first objective focuses on to promote the trade flow by encouraging the nations to adopt non-discriminatory and predictable trade policies. When we talk about non-discriminatory countries are countries where the products, whether it is locally manufactured or imported products, are to be treated equally. Second objective focuses on raising the standard of living of the individuals, promoting full employment level, expanding production and trade, and optimum utilization of the world's resources. Third objective focuses on ensuring sustainable development in order that the environment and sustainable development go hand in hand, focusing on the health, sanitization of the member countries. The fourth objective, WTO takes positive steps for ensuring that the developing countries, mostly the least developed countries, so that they can have a better share in the world trade. The last objective which is there is to see how the WTO frames different policies and procedure for resolving any trade dispute which is there between the member countries is mentioned. Moving ahead with the functions, the first function of WTO is it administers and implements the various multilateral and plurilateral trade agreements which are with the members of WTO. It acts as a forum for multilateral trade negotiation so that the deal can be struck between the countries. It provides various mechanisms to solve the dispute between the member nations, oversees the various trade policies, cooperates with other international institutions involved in global economic policy making. It maintains the different trade related database so that the members are notified about what are the various measures and statistics related to the trade with the member countries. It acts as a watchdog, supervising and administrating the trade regimes of the individual members. It also acts as a management consultant for the world trade experts on panel of WTO, which scans the world economic environment and make certain observation on the contemporary basis. It also provides the technical assistance and training for the developing countries. So these are the functions which we have looked into. Let us now look at the structure of WTO. The structure has 4 levels. That is the first one which is called as Ministerial Conference. Then we have the next one which is called as the General Council. Next being Council, and the last one being the Management and the Committees. To start with is the first one which is Ministerial Conference, which is the highest hierarchical level in the structure of WTO, where they make all decisions which are related to multilateral trade agreements, where the members meet every 2 years and they take various decisions with respect to how the multi-trade agreements can happen between the member countries. The second level in the structure is General Council, which is said to be the administrative body of WTO. which looks after the activities of the ministerial conference by taking two forms which are there. First one, which is dispute settlement body. Dispute is any kind of non-agreement between the countries. So they come up with various measures so as to see the disputes can be reduced and the countries, member countries can have amicable relationship. And also the second form is with trade policy review body, which again suggests measures how the reviewal of the trade policy can take place. The third being councils. Under councils we have three levels. The first one being Council for Trade in Goods, the second being Council for Trade in Services, and the third being Council for Trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. So coming to the first one, where the Council for Trade in Goods, this particular council specifically caters to the supervision and implementation of various agreements related to trade in goods. The second being the Council for Trade in Services. They cater to implementing the various rules and policies related to the services which are rendered. And the third being the trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. They take care of how the various intellectual property rights are being taken into consideration, such as copyright, patent, trademarks, and so on. The fourth in the hierarchical structure is about committees and management bodies. So under committees and management body, as we have seen how General Council will delegate and all the power, the responsibilities and authorities to various bodies. There are three bodies which are there under the category of the word committee. The first one being Committee on Trade and Development, second being Committee on Balance of Payment, and the third being Committee on Budget, Finance and Administration. To start with the Committee on Trade and Development, committee is where group of people come together. So this particular committee caters to the issues which are concerning the developing countries, particularly the least developed countries, yes, where they do not have a good economic background. Committee on Balance of Payment. As we all know, balance of payment refers to the monetary record of any nation's record of how the transaction take place with the home country and also with the rest of the world. And the next one is Committee on Budget, Finance and Administration. So this committee basically looks into how WTO activity has to come up with a budget which gives an estimation of what will be the likely expenditure for conducting various activities, and also how much is the amount which is required for the finance which is required and the administration of carrying out various activities. Since we have already seen that WTO acts as a watchdog, so it tries to have an supervision, administer how the activities of WTO are happening. And the management bodies usually deal with the plurilateral bodies which already reports to the General Council in terms of the activities related to civil, aircraft, government procurement and dairy products. The principles on which WTO works are, the first one being transparency. WTO has to maintain transparent relation with the member countries with respect to the tax, laws, regulations, judicial decision, so that the member countries are familiar with what are the rules which are being framed. That is the first principle. Next principle is MFN treatment, most favored nation. Most favored nation is where it allows a member country to lower its trade barrier or to open a new market which may have the benefit which might be extended to all the trading partners. That is a major aim of most favored nation. Next is national treatment, non-discrimination between a country. Now this non-discrimination is in terms of the products which are being manufactured even by the local individuals and also the imported goods. So they should be treated equally, there should not be any discrimination. That is another principle. The most important principle is with respect to free trade principle, so as to ensure there is optimum utilization of resources. So we know that free trade is an area where the trade is carried out freely without any barriers, which can be either tariff or non-tariff barriers, or completely abolition of the various barriers. Next is dismantling the trade barriers, as trade barriers create hurdles and obstacles in the movement of the goods from one country to another. So it focuses on removing all the trade barriers that are there. Competition principle. WTO promotes open and fair competition among the member countries. The next one is environment protection, whereas I have mentioned about sustainable development. So environment and sustainability go hand in hand. So WTO focuses on how the environment can be well protected. It can have a protection to the plant life, the animals, and coming up with various standards and measures so as to bring about uniformity in terms of measures which are applicable to all the member countries. Let us now look into how WTO and India are related. What is the advantage that WTO has with respect to India? It boosts the export of the products which are there among the member countries of WTO. Next is provides the policy assistance, because WTO is very transparent with respect to regulations, rules, laws. Trade links, WTO has good trade links because of the various it maintains friendly relations with the other countries. They have a mechanism for resolving the dispute, where we have seen about how the General Council takes care, being the administrative body. Promotion of competition is fair and open, so there is no concept of having unequal competition. Technical assistance in terms of upgradation of technology, research and development, and special concession for entering in your business of one country with the other. Obviously, WTO also has disadvantages with India. The first one is no export push. Next one is price rise. Danger to the service sector with respect to WTO. There is inequality among the concept of movement of your products, and the other disadvantage is there is no free trade. But as we have seen in levels of economic integration, free trade is said to be the least restrictive and the loosest form of the organization, but free trade opens opportunities for other countries to have a trade with the other rest of the world which is there. Let us look at a small difference between how GATT is different from WTO. GATT basically focuses on trade in goods, whereas WTO focuses on both trade in goods and services. Coming to GATT, the settlement process in GATT is very slow, whereas in WTO it is very fast. The settlement mechanism is very good. GATT does not emphasize on trips and trims, whereas WTO emphasizes on trips and trims. GATT is a multilateral and plurilateral agreement, whereas WTO is only a plurilateral agreement. We look into the key subjects in WTO. Basically, key subject means different provisions that are there in the World Trade Organization. The first one being agriculture. WTO frames certain elements that have to be included in the agriculture. What is the market access that the agriculture sector can have? It also talks about the support that the domestic country receives in terms of agriculture products. And all this has an impact on the transportation, the insurance, the movement of goods and other things. Next provision WTO caters to is with respect to health and safety measures. WTO clearly mentions what are the measures that are being taken to protect the hygiene and health care of the individuals, especially with least developed nations and food importing countries, because least developed countries are those who do not have the access to the minimum infrastructure facilities and minimum requirement in terms of food safety. The fourth one being the textiles and clothing. It tries to create measures which can restrict the movement of the goods by imposing various quotas. That is the quantitative restriction. Next you have the TRIPS and TRIMS, trade related intellectual property rights, trade related investment measures. That is the key subject in WTO. Let us now look at the TRIPS which is there. TRIPS, it stands for trade related aspects of international intellectual property rights, which is an international agreement which is administered by WTO, where they give down or maintain a set of minimum standards which are required for any form of intellectual property right, which can be applied to all the WTO members. Next is with respect to the TRIPS have been introduced as an intellectual property law in the International Trading Agreement for the first time, and it is said to be a very comprehensive international agreement on intellectual property till date. TRIPS not only focuses on the procedure, but it talks about what are the remedial measures, how can the disputes be settled, how can the member countries be protected and enforced in order to meet and contribute to the promotion of the technological innovation of a country. For TRIPS to work, it requires that your member states should provide a strong protection. There we mentioned about copyright, where copyright should be extended at least till 20 years. Coming to your literary works like computer programs, which is coming under the category of literary works under the copyright law, and they should receive the same kind of protection by ensuring registration is done. And patents also should be granted for invention, which is in terms of protection of the business secret, which is applicable. Coming to the concept of TRIMS. TRIMS is trade related investment measures, that is again an agreement. TRIMS talks basically about what are the rules that a nation can apply on the foreign investment, which has an effect on the trade and services. This particular agreement came into picture in the year 1994, where they provided a restriction of preference of domestic production and also to see how international firms can operate easily in the foreign markets. And these particular TRIMS are all measures related and proposed by WTO to ensure the free flow of investments which can take place all over the world. Coming to the features of TRIMS, the first feature is that it offers fair treatment and facility to all the foreign investors as applicable to domestic investors. So we have seen, since it is part and parcel of WTO, they focus on transparency, fair treatment which is required. It focuses on removal of the restriction which is there in terms of dividend and the interest by multinational company. It provides 100% foreign equity participation, no restriction on foreign investment regarding area, that means free trade, not mandatory to export part of the final product, and abolition of restriction on the foreign capital. We'll also look into BRICS. The acronym stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. This particular BRIC focuses on how to ensure economic cooperation can be maintained among the member nations. And it also sees how the economic and political standing can happen in the world, with its main objective which focuses on cooperation, development and influence in the international affairs. And it also speaks about how financing, political and cultural exchanges have an impact on the BRICS functioning. BRICS does not have a particular structure as such, but they have the chairman who is appointed on a rotational basis, and they have annual summits where they meet and discuss about how BRICS countries should work. The key areas in which cooperation is required in BRICS is the first with respect to economic cooperation. Economic cooperation refers to see how trade and investment can flow between the BRIC countries, and also identify what are the economic and trade cooperation, innovation cooperation, custom cooperation which is required for realization of the objective of BRICS. Second is with respect to people exchange, where BRICS focuses on how to have friendship with different countries, how to have the deep trade relationships and mutual understanding between the BRIC member countries. And it also focuses on how this particular people-to-people exchange can work in areas of culture, sport, education, film and youth. Next area is political and security cooperation by ensuring peace, harmony, safety, in ensuring the equitable cooperation among the world, in the world, and also it provides various policies and opportunities to see how the policies can be advised and practiced in the real-time domestic and regional challenges. The fourth one being cooperation mechanism in terms of having a formal diplomatic engagement which is between the national governments, engagement through government affiliated institutions, a civil society and people-to-people engagement. Looking at the objective of BRIC, the BRIC seeks to have a deep, broad and an intensified cooperation within the groups and among the individual countries for having a sustainable, equitable and beneficial cooperation. BRICS also takes into consideration the member countries' growth and development. It is emerging as a new and a promissory political diplomatic entity with the various objectives which are diversified, which goes beyond the basic goal of BRICS. Thank you all.